welcome to this episode of Demystified as we explore home cooking in a modern world. This podcast is brought to you from the team behind Cooking with Steam, who are the lovely Paul Mounsey. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Linda.
And me, Linda McGowan.
I still can't get used to this intro thing. It's weirding me out. I'm
Sorry,
weirded out.
I haven't yet worked out the perfect format.
It's quite
I know
good.
I'm changing it. It's cutting out the first bit in the middle, the first bit at the beginning, and going straight into it. So I'm hoping that it's appreciated.
No, it's quite good.
No,
Considering
well,
you're doing
you.
it on the fly, no script.
No.
That's how we roll.
That's how we roll, and I think people would know that we don't have a script by now.
Or the drivel that comes out.
Maybe we should.
Well,
but
we should at
either way.
least get organised enough to have topics.
Well, that would help too.
Yeah.
But we just did think of something then as we were setting up, so that was good.
Yes, well, considering the season that we're at, the type of cooking that we do over summer, particularly in Australia and over the holidays, and something that I do a lot of and a lot of different versions of, especially when, you've got a few bits and pieces and a few ingredients and you're not sure what to do with, you kind of turn the barbecue on and grill some sort of animal and then you make a salad.
Or vegetable.
Exactly,
yeah. Yes.
But dressings.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And there are some people who love them. Some like them on the side.
Yep.
Some like them all over.
And the funny thing is...
Some don't like them at all.
Yeah, and some people call them sauces, which in my world is not
yes.
a thing.
No.
Like they're not sauces. But some people do.
Yeah, I guess we call them a dressing because we make it on the spot, don't we? I think dressings, aren't they, in a bottle, if you buy them?
Yeah, I've always come at it from
I've
always come at it from a perspective of a sauce is a hot thing.
Tomato sauce?
Yeah, okay.
HP sauce?
Yeah, but...
Worcestershire sauce?
Yeah, but...
Soy sauce?
Yeah, but in cooking well, where you've actually made something from
yes.
scratch, a sauce is more a hot sort of element, and a dressing is more to go with cold. But yeah, I mean, to your point, soy sauce, oyster sauce, fish sauce. Now that I'm saying it, it doesn't really make much sense. But anyway, I suppose salad dressings, regardless of whether it's a warm vegetable salad, whether it's a potato salad, whether it's a leafy green, a tomato salad, whatever. Yes, dressings. Pretty simple.
Well, I've always been a bit stumped because I know there are times when you've made salad and there'll be a really nice sort of a simple olive oil.
Yep.
Just a simple olive oil, and yet the ingredients from the salad itself,
yep.
when it's a warm salad, will sort of change that flavour a bit. And you go, no, just olive oil and a little bit of salt.
Salt, yeah.
And other times there's been some ingredients that you've made into that, which has changed it again. And I think that night we didn't eat the salad, but you told me I should have when we were at yours.
Oh yeah.
With the...
I can't remember what it was now.
Oh, you did a roasted vegetable, and it was sort of a Spanish. You had some chorizo oil that you cooked off.
Yeah.
And I missed it, and I thought that would be interesting.
Yeah. So salad dressings are a balance between generally, and I'm generalising here, but if we sort of separate them out into boxes, you have your sort of more creamy mayonnaise based or yogurt or sour cream based salad dressings, and then you, let's say, have your oil based salad dressings. Now I know mayonnaise is made from oil, but let's just for simplicity, let's just box them out. The one thing that they do all have in common, regardless of whether they're a yogurt, sour cream, mayonnaise, or a oil-based, is the balance of acid to the carrying item, whether it be sour cream or oil, or yogurt or oil or whatever. As you said before, olive oil for me that's where, and it's funny actually, I got asked a question the other day about what oil should I have in my house by a colleague of mine who had just made himself dinner, because I've got some very close colleagues dotted all over the world, and we've got our own little WhatsApp group. We often take photos of what's for dinner, and because it's at all different times of the day, of course. What's for dinner, who's cooking what, and and being the only chef amongst the group, these questions come up. So he was using first press, really superior quality extra virgin olive oil. And the funny thing was he sent a picture of it, and he said, I'll use this as salad dressing, just as salt. It was fantastic, and he sent a picture of it, and the first thing I wrote back to him was, I said, move it away from where you've got it, because he had set it directly next to his stove. So move it away from the heat source. Olive oil is a funny one, right? Because it's the ubiquitous sort of, and make your salad and make your dressing and use olive oil, and do this and use olive oil. It's not really spoken of what olive oil a lot of the time. Is it pure olive oil? Is it extra virgin? Is it, what they call Tuscan blend, which is a mix of olive oil and vegetable oil? Extra virgin olive oil for me is, as you say, standalone, really good by itself. It does go well with some acids, but not all. So one common one that you see amongst seafood is olive oil and lemon juice. If anyone bothers to try it, do a mix and do a calamari salad or something with olive oil and lemon juice and taste it before you do it. It's terrible. It's shocking. Really bad. The acid levels in lemon juice do not blend well with extra virgin olive oil. And the fruit of the olive and lemon together is just a rubbish.
Okay.
In my opinion, it's a rubbish mix. To get a good lemon dressing, you need a neutral flavoured oil. But that said, if we take something like a vinegar, what's a good vinegar? Even a balsamic vinegar, if you like. A nice aged balsamic vinegar. You don't get the best out of that balsamic vinegar by using a rubbish vegetable oil. It's actually, olive oil carries that much better, and it works much better. So the acid levels, what acid you're using, matter to what oils you're using.
Okay.
Does that make
sense?
sense?
Like a science lesson.
No,
yes,
but does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I always consider when I'm making dressings, okay, what do I want? What ingredients am I adding? And quite often the ones that I'll go to will be generally oil-based. Sometimes I'll make some yogurt or do a mix of yogurt and sour cream, or mayonnaise, yogurt and sour cream. So ranch is a really popular US one, depending on where you go and who you talk to. But it's that sort of more creamy base, lots of herbs and all that sort of stuff. And lemon juice works in those, and so do vinegars. But for me, I like and my partner prefers the maybe not so creamy dressings. But the funny thing is that if you take, let's just say, and here's an example of one that I do often, which I do with pork. So I'll make a salad with some pork belly, let's say, and we'll have apple and leaves and radishes and, all varying fresh ingredients. And the dressing that I make is about a spoon of, whatever the spoon size is, a dessert spoon of whole grain mustard, about half of really good quality honey, and Spanish vinegar, about half or to a full spoon of Spanish vinegar, and then I'll whisk in vegetable oil. The funny thing is that mustard, whether it be Dijon mustard, English mustard, American mustard, whole grain mustard, whatever, mustard's an emulsifier. So it actually thickens the dressing. So if you mix mustard and oil together, much like you would when you make a mayonnaise, when you mix egg yolk and oil, if you mix mustard and oil together, the dressing thickens. So mustard works as an emulsifier. That's why you'll often see recipes for all manner of dressings, like a classic French dressing has mustard in it. It's quite thick. And a lot of people back in the day would assume that there was an egg yolk in it. I can remember my mum making dressings in a jar and shaking them vigorously, and they may well have had an egg yolk in it. It's just to thicken them up. But if you actually add it correctly, you don't need the egg yolk, and the mustard works as a emulsifier. So for vegans, perfect.
That makes sense.
So the trick with dressings for me is get the acid balance right, and always start gentle. So don't go too heavy with your acid because you can always add a little bit more. And if you get that emulsification thing, if you are using mustard and it's working for you, the acid, whether it be lemon juice, vinegar, those sorts of things, can thin it out to where it's not too unctuous, because when you're dressing a salad, you want it to coat the salad but not drown it. Your salad, let's say in the case of leaves, you don't want them drooping under the weight of the dressing. You just want a shimmer on them, a bit of a glaze on them, more so. So I generally don't make dressings in bulk. So I'll make them each day or night. It takes 2 seconds, right? It takes very little time. And it's just understanding things like what do. So with yogurt-based dressing, sour cream, it's already reasonably thick already. And what you're actually tending to do is try and thin that out. Whereas oil-based dressings, you're trying to thicken them up a little bit so they're not too split and separated. Now, separated and split dressings where you don't mix the oil in are also useful as well, depending on your ingredients, how much they sink, all that sort of stuff. So good. That's that sort of honey mustard is a good starting point. I always think shallots, French shallots, eschalots, depends where you're from. So not green spring onions, as we call them here, but they look like little onions. We call them shallots. Shallots carry vinegars really well. So if you finely dice a shallot, it works in most dressings, most oil-based dressings, and they will carry the vinegar. So you'll get that little vinegar bite when you bite into a leaf, let's say, it's got a bit of shallot dressing on it. So I like shallots as well in my dressing, but I've made dressings with brown onion and you just bash it to form a puree in a mortar and pestle, and an onion vinaigrette can be delicious. Sugar's another thing you need on hand when you're making dressings. You just need to balance the acid sometimes. And it's not necessarily because you've added too much acid, it's just the type of acid and the other ingredients that you've got in there. So a little bit of sugar. So shallots, a good sort of standard dressing that I do is very finely diced shallots, which I'll put in a flat container and just have enough red wine vinegar to cover, some picked thyme and a reasonable pinch of caster sugar, and I'll let that sit. And what happens is the shallots go bright pink, so it looks quite attractive too. And then basis of sort of oil-based vinaigrettes, and that's what I'm more so talking about, is 1/3 vinegar, 2/3 oil. It's a pretty good balance. Now, it depends on the vinegar because different vinegars have different acidic levels, but that's a good starting point. So at the other end of the scale, you sort of more creamy dressings, ranch, dressing, one of the probably most common in Australia, creamy dressings is for potato salad. Yes. Yeah. They can be pretty much anything you like, right? So you can add a million different flavour profiles. You can do whatever you like. I mean, pesto can be its own dressing if you want it to. Like it could be anything. It's just, I think with dressings, and I hate this word, but you don't want to make whatever it is you're dressing stodgy. By I mean stodgy, I mean heavy. So I don't think potato salads necessarily need to be heavy. Quite often I remember as a kid, they were this super thick, like you'd get a mouthful of mayonnaise and a bit of potato.
Yeah. Those are the days.
Yeah, and it was always like this. I still remember, and it wasn't that long ago actually, and I shouldn't put her in it, but I still remember. It's probably maybe about 8 to 10 years ago, but I still remember making mayonnaise in front of my partner for the first time, and she was like, "What do you mean you make it?" Like, how do you get what is this white sort of thickened item out of a jar? How do you make it? And when she saw that it was essentially 3 ingredients, egg, mustard, oil, she was like, okay. And then I said, taste this versus that. So I think, mayonnaise dressings, and I think getting into the habit with your more creamy dressings, even creme fraiche, anything like that, depending on what you're making, but I like the idea of mixing a lot of those together. I think it works a lot better. So I think mayonnaise can be very heavy and monotone in flavour, and it will take over. So in a potato salad, you've got potatoes which, depending on how you've prepped them and cooked them, but let's just go with it, they've been boiled, right? So you got kind of a meh potato, and then you add bacon, and then you add spring onions, and then egg, and whatever your potato salad recipe is. And then we add this super heavy monotone flavour of mayonnaise, and it kind of, you don't really taste anything except for mayonnaise.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
I like the idea. I mean, you can pack a potato salad full of herbs and all the rest of it. I like the idea of actually using a bit of sour cream or yogurt with my mayonnaise, and it gives it a totally different feel. It's not as thick, and it puts a little bit of zing in the dressing as well. Now you can add zing by lemon juice and all sorts of stuff, but yeah, I just work on with your creamy based dressings, mixing a few different creamy items, for want of a better term, together. So mix a bit of mayonnaise with some yogurt, mix some yogurt with some sour cream, and it works really well. Like, it took me a long time to get on board with that. It wasn't a thing that I sort of, coming from French cooking, it's not sort of the thing. It's quite probably, and I'm generalising here, but it's probably more a North American sort of thing, that sort of very creamy based dressings. As I said before, ranch comes to mind instantaneously. But mix a few of those together, and you'll find you get some really nice dressings and good balance. Yogurt and olive oil are also a very good mix together. Some really good quality natural yogurt and olive oil. And, you can add anything to it. Tabasco, diced shallots, lots of herbs. I like lots of fresh herbs in my dressings too, depending on the application. And use soft herbs, so parsleys, basils. Not necessarily, you wouldn't often use sage or rosemary. Thyme's a good one though.
Yeah.
But I think spring onions, so green onions, tarragon is really good. Bit of an aniseedy kick. Dill is another one. I'm just sort of sitting here thinking to myself, okay, so one of my favourite breakfasts is a bagel with smoked salmon and a creamy dill dressing on top. That being said, if I go along the same lines, another dressing which I've done over a long period of time is Dijon mustard, sugar, and really good vinegar, and that's over cured salmon like gravlax. And that's a classic Scandinavian preparation, but there's no oil at all, and it's the heat of the mustard and the sugar working against the vinegar, and it's absolutely to die for. But I can't think of any other use where I would use that dressing. So sometimes you'll find a dressing that's just right for your purpose. You don't need to necessarily mess around and try and reinvent the wheel.
So what do you think?
How much talking was that?
Sorry. I was like, man, this is a good topic. It's keeping me quiet. What do you think is a really good vinegar? What like, it's not the ubiquitous sort of $2 for 5 litres vinegar that you get in supermarkets?
No, I use that for cleaning.
Yes,
yep.
Yeah, we do.
Yep.
But what sort of vinegar do you have?
So the vinegars in my cupboards are varied, and I hold a lot of vinegar because, as we've said countless times, there are 2 flavour enhancers in food. One is salt, the other is acid. So at the moment, my lemon tree is in sort of dormant time. There's no lemons. So vinegar is my go-to. So I can tell you exactly what I have in my cupboard at the moment because I just recently I actually go to a particular shop to buy my vinegars.
Okay.
So I have champagne.
You name names?
Bass Foods.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, near us.
Yeah.
Oh.
I have champagne vinegar, tarragon vinegar, red wine vinegar, white wine vinegar, apple cider vinegar, Jerez or sherry vinegar. I think sherry vinegar is a must-have. Balsamic vinegar. They're about the 6 or 7 that I always try and carry.
Okay.
Now
it
seems extreme, but I remember when we started cooking with Steam and I was cooking out of your place, we went through quite a lot of red wine vinegar because I would use that quite often.
Whereas I go through quite a lot of red wine.
Yes. But I think in most people's houses, I think, and I'm generalising here, a balsamic vinegar is because balsamic vinegar, you can stick it on some mozzarella, you can throw it in a tomato salad, you can reduce it down and make a glaze with it. There are different grades of balsamic vinegar, so I'd buy just a general one. If I'm doing something specky, I'll buy an aged balsamic vinegar. Yeah. But I think you need a red wine, a white wine, and a balsamic.
Apple cider.
And an apple cider too.
I use that a lot.
Yeah, and an apple cider. So 4.
The other thing I tend to use a lot too is verjuice, which isn't quite a vinegar.
So that's great. It's kind of like, what is it? It's the, what is it again? It's the unfermented juice from grapes. Verjuice is a funny one because I prefer that as an addition to a like sauce or a pan sauce or something like that. I think it's a bit tamer than vinegar. I don't often use it as a thing in a dressing, but then again, you're a bit fancy and it's quite expensive verjuice.
No. So, the wonderful Magging beer refers to it all the time, but I do tend to cook with it more than
that's what I mean. Yeah. So,
but I do have
cook
that
with
as
it.
well.
But and the important thing about vinegars is that they are for cooking with as well. It's not just for creating dressings; it's for cooking with. And the reason I carry so many is because we eat a reasonable amount of fish in our house, so I like tarragon vinegar and champagne vinegar for all manner of uses for fish and making sauces, and because tarragon isn't often something that you buy a bunch of tarragon, you use a bit, and then so I've always liked tarragon vinegar, but certainly you don't need them all, but depends on what I'm making, really. Red wine vinegar I'd probably go to more for cooking, unless I'm making like a mignonette for shallots, for oysters, or something like that. So I'm reasonably specific about what I use each one for. I like the sherry vinegar for a lot of things though. That's real good, that stuff. Maybe buy the good one, like buy the proper Spanish one.
Could we push the friendship a little bit, and at some point you just kind of do a rough guide for red wine vinegar for these type of uses? Would that be helpful?
Yeah, we could probably do that. Yeah. Okay.
And the oils, you mentioned from your worldwide group of friends.
Yes.
Oils, and not oils, are all oils.
Ah, so very good. John Laws.
Is his oil?
I think he's dead, isn't he?
I think he might have.
Yeah. He dropped off.
What oils do you have?
Okay, so I don't go for the pure olive oils or anything like that for cooking, while a lot of people do. So extra virgin olive oil for me is an important part of my life. So I have extra virgin olive oil, which I keep in a very small vessel, in a dark spot generally, and I will top up that vessel from a larger sealed cask or tin or something like that, but I only keep a very small amount out because it goes rancid quickly, it loses its flavour, it's affected by light, affected by heat. I keep it away from the stove. So I keep that. I keep a vegetable oil of sorts for frying. So rice bran oil is probably one that I will use. If I can't get that, maybe just like a sunflower oil, because we'll have fish and chip night at home, or I did some tempura like a week ago.
So your fish and chip night, you're not doing what we do, and run
I
up
don't
to
pick
the
up the
local
phone. No,
and place it.
no.
Okay, alrighty, just making sure we're on the
yeah.
same wavelength then.
So I make the potato cakes, I make the chips, I make the fish. Like
Yes.
we make tartar sauce. There you go.
Yes,
There's another
there-
dressing.
there you
Yeah.
go.
So I'll have my extra virgin olive oil, my oil for frying, which I will, depending on what I've fried and how much I've used it, I may well run through a coffee filter and keep to save ditching it. And then I have a very ubiquitous vegetable oil that has a high heat tolerance. So at the moment I've got grapeseed oil because I saw some and I found some and I'll grab that. But it could be canola, whatever. Neutral in flavour, something that has a high smoke point so you can cook with it. And that's about where it stretches for me. If I really wanted to worry a little bit more, I'd probably buy like a Tuscan blend, which is a blend of pure olive oil, so not extra virgin. So it's like a second press, and vegetable oil mixed together, which can impart to a degree a little bit of flavour, and you can deep fry or shallow fry with it. Does it improve the end result? I struggle to see that it does, but that's up for discussion. But I think most households you'll get away with just having a vegetable oil that has very neutral in flavour that's super versatile, because grapeseed oil is not inexpensive, right? So rice bran oil works okay, but just a canola is fine because you can deep fry with it, make a mayonnaise, make a dressing, do whatever you want, right? So I think most households invest in really, really good extra virgin olive oil in small amounts at a time and have a vegetable oil, and the bases are almost covered, really. I mean, we're not commercial catering at home.
No.
I am, sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about what you need, I think. And given that most people aren't deep frying often, if you are deep frying often, then it's worth looking at a specific oil just for your deep frying needs.
And the last little thing on this, salts. I know we've had a big discussion about salt.
Yeah.
But do you have 2 types or 3 types of salt in your pantry?
I'm counting them in my head.
Oh, oops. Or do you have 18?
No, I've got a few.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have rock salt.
Yep.
So that's the big chunky grains, and it's not because I grind it. I have rock salt because I bake vegetables on it.
Like the kohlrabi.
Yep.
Yep.
I'll use it under a plate of oysters so the oysters don't slide around everywhere. More often than not, it's used for me for a baking vegetable purpose. So I have that. I have crappy $1 a 2 kilo bag cooking salt. That's for Play-Doh.
Play-Doh.
Well,
Yep.
yeah, that's for making Play-Doh. Like the other day, what happened here? Not that you saw, but I spilt some stock.
I think I heard.
Yeah. You didn't hear the stock, you heard
No, I
the
heard
voice.
yes.
Oh,
I heard that, yes.
So I'll use that for a spill to draw moisture up off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I'm spreading salt all over the ground, but dog wheeze on the carpet or something, right?
Yeah.
So I've just got that crappy salt. I have what's probably commonly known as a finishing salt. Okay, so more like a flake salt,
yeah.
like Malden or Murray River or...
Pink Himalayan?
No, because they don't do a flake salt.
Oh, don't they? Okay.
No, well, not that I've seen. And then I have kosher salt. So, the salt that I use the most, which costs me more than anything else, is kosher salt. And the reason I use it, and I use it in all my dressings, and that's the other thing I didn't mention in dressings, you've got to season your dressings. And if you're seasoning your dressings in, use a salt that's going to disperse, right? So you don't want to use, you can use flake salt and pinch it down and stuff like that, but kosher salt is probably better. So I use kosher salt because it hasn't got any iodine in it. Every other salt does, including Himalayan. pink salt. I have at times bought specialty salts, black salt, smoked salt, da 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 da. The problem with all of them is they have iodine in them. And the problem with that is it gives a metallic taste.
And we have done a half an hour expose on salts
Have
in an earlier podcast.
Right.
So for full details, we can refer back to that one. But that's interesting. And another thing, the last thing that I can think of is pepper. Because we've had discussions about black pepper, which does leave marks.
Flakes, yeah.
And ground,
Yeah, you're right. Ground white pepper.
Yeah, ground white pepper, that's it.
So I've got a little sort of piece of timber which sits adjacent to my cooktop. And on that, I have a pepper grinder and a salt grinder because even though kosher salt is pretty fine, it goes through the grinder for me. So I have a pepper and salt grinder, 2 lovely copper numbers that my partner bought me for my birthday. I also have various salt pigs set up there. So one will have cooking salt in it, and I'll use that for pasta water.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Cooking salt in it, rock salt and flake salt. And the flake salt's the smallest one because salts draw moisture. Okay, so you don't want it to go cruddy. I've got another little pot next to that which has ground white pepper in it. And then I have my 2 very small bottles of oil, extra virgin olive oil and vegetable oil, just little glass bottles with a pourer on them. And and there's a jar there also that has a lid, which I keep my garlic in. But that's my setup at home. It's almost identical to what I have here.
Yeah.
That's my setup at home. And 9 times out of 10 if I am using pepper in a dressing, it will be the ground white because I don't like to see the little black flecks. But that's a personal choice.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's not quite all about dressings, but you know.
No, but it's a step.
They're almost like we're almost talking about pantry, must-haves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably more appropriate. A little started on dressings, but we shifted a little bit. But
they're all part of the dressing.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that you know that your cooking's your cooking's maybe improving when. It's funny actually, my sister-in-law will come over to our house and look in the fridge and go, nothing in the fridge. This is what she'll say. And then an hour later, 20 minutes later, we've cooked something and I've got dressings, I've got this, I've got that, I think your cooking's getting good when you can have minimal ingredients on hand and make something out of them by using them in not a correct fashion, but using them in maybe different ways which you didn't think. So what she doesn't see is she'll open the pantry and there's a couple of boxes of cereal there and a bag of chips and whatever, but what she doesn't see is the 7 vinegars there which I can make a gazillion different dressings out of, and I've got some potatoes and vegetables and a few leaves and a few tomatoes and and all of a sudden, one chorizo sausage, everyone will look at that and go, what are you making? And quite often I'll get things like, those wraps. We do wraps for Ollie's lunches or whatever. I'll take some of those wraps and I'll tear them into shreds and make croutons out of them, and that's another part of my salad. So although it looks like a minimal amount of food, a minimal amount of ingredients, you can actually create a lot. But as long as you've got some sort of base level, I suppose, pantry items is what we're talking about. The right oils, the right vinegars, a few mustards and a bit of honey and, some acids, lemon juice, whatever, away you go.
Well, thank you for that.
Well, I don't know where we went with that, but anyway.
But thank you. Now I'm inspired to go home and make a salad.
Well, you see, the thing about it is you actually, and I haven't been to your house in quite a long time, but I know your pantry situation.
It hasn't changed.
Yes, I know. And probably the last bottle of soy sauce I bought and all of that sort of stuff is still sitting in there. Oh, and that's another one. Like soy sauce goes really well with olive oil too. Very well, in fact. Good.
What doesn't soy sauce go well on?
Soy sauce goes really well with really good olive oil. Good soy sauce, good olive oil. Squeeze a lime juice. So then you get heading down the Asian path, but you're working with salty acids. Fish sauce is another thing you should have.
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
always have fish sauce. You've got to have fish sauce because fish sauce really provides proper good umami to things. So, yeah, I mean it's an endless topic.
Add it to the list of things, just must-haves of oils, salts, vinegars, just as a starter.
Okay, all right, we can do that. Where are we going to put it?
When you say we.
Yeah, I know. Maybe I'll just say, like, what were you talking about the other day? I can talk to a computer screen. It can put it all in writing for me. Maybe we'll do that.
We can do that.
We have the technology. Potentially.
Allegedly.
If we can figure out
Allegedly,
how to use it.
we just have to figure out how to use it. Oh, well done. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing, as ever.
Yes. And we'll be back on Friday.
We'll be back on Friday for a quick catch-up and see what we've been cooking.
Yep.
And until then, happy cooking.
Happy cooking.
You, Paul.
Enjoy your dressing making.
Bye, everybody.
See ya. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this podcast as we explore home cooking in a modern world. We'd love you to subscribe, and for more information, please go to our website, cookingwithsteam.com.